Marcus liked driving himself home at night. Most of the city officials he knew preferred chauffeurs, but Marcus had never wanted that kind of separation. He enjoyed rolling down his windows, feeling the evening air, reminding himself that before titles, before politics, he was just another man. Tonight, though, his solitude was interrupted by the sharp flash of police lights in his rear view. He pulled over calmly, already running through the possibilities in his head. He wasn't speeding, his taillights worked, and he hadn't rolled through any stop signs. There was no valid reason to stop him. And that was exactly why his stomach tightened. The officer who approached his window was young, maybe late 20s, but he carried himself with an air of arrogance that wasn't earned. His flashlight beam lingered on Marcus's face longer than necessary. "License and registration," the officer barked. Marcus handed them over, steady and polite. "Can I ask why I was stopped, officer?" The cop smirked. "You are driving too slow for this neighborhood. Looks suspicious." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Driving under the limit isn't a crime." "Don't get smart with me," the officer snapped. He glanced at the license. "Marcus Johnson. Lives across town, huh? What brings you out here?" "I live here now," Marcus replied. The officer chuckled under his breath. "You? In Oakwood Estates? That's a good one." He looked past Marcus at the leather interior of the car. "So whose vehicle is this? Really?" Marcus had heard enough similar encounters in his life to know exactly where this was going. Still, he stayed calm. "It's mine, registered in my name, as you can see." The cop slapped the roof of the car with his palm. "Step out." Marcus took a slow breath. He knew refusing would escalate things, and right now he wanted this man to keep digging his own hole. He unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped onto the pavement. "Hands on the hood." The cop pushed him forward roughly, patting him down with unnecessary force. Marcus winced, but didn't resist. Other cars slowed as they passed, drivers craning their necks at the sight. The officer clearly enjoyed the display of authority. "You got drugs in the car? Weapons? Be honest now," the cop said. "No," Marcus answered flatly. "We'll see about that." The officer motioned to the second patrol car that had just arrived. Another cop stepped out, this one quieter but watching closely. "Pop the trunk," the first officer ordered. Marcus didn't move. "You don't have probable cause." The officer's eyes narrowed. "I don't need probable cause when I've got suspicion. You look like you don't belong here, and that's enough for me." The second officer shifted uncomfortably, but didn't intervene. Marcus caught that detail. It told him this wasn't the first time Officer Daniels, he could now read the badge, had pulled something like this. Daniels pulled out his radio. "Bringing him in. Says he lives here but paperwork doesn't add up. I'll get it sorted at the station." Marcus stayed quiet as the cuffs clicked around his wrists. He could have ended it right there, could have pulled his badge and shut the whole thing down. But Daniel's smug grin told Marcus everything he needed to know. This wasn't just about him. This was about a pattern. A young officer intoxicated by the little bit of power a badge gave him. If Marcus shut it down now, Daniels would just do it again to someone else tomorrow. So Marcus let himself be led into the back of the squad car. He let Daniels feel triumphant, strutting back to his cruiser like he'd just solved a major case. At the station, Daniels paraded Marcus past the booking desk, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Got ourselves a prowler from Oakwood. Claims he owns a car that's probably worth more than his house. We'll run his info and see what comes up." Marcus sat on the hard bench, watching. Every insult, every accusation, every unnecessary shove, he logged it all silently. The real justice would come, but not yet. For the next hour, Daniels kept at it. He badgered Marcus with questions about where he worked, why he was driving late, how he could afford the car. He made jokes under his breath about thugs in suits and rags to riches fairy tales that don't check out. And Marcus let him. He answered in short, calm sentences, never losing his composure. The more Daniels talked, the more rope he gave himself. By the time Daniels was drafting up paperwork to justify the arrest, other officers were exchanging looks. Some recognized Marcus, but he raised a finger subtly, signaling them to stay quiet. Not yet. He wanted Daniels to walk all the way into the trap. The precinct's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, cold and unforgiving. Marcus sat on the bench, his cuffed hands resting in his lap, his face calm but unreadable. Across the desk, Officer Daniels was in full performance mode. He slapped papers down, tapped his pen loudly, leaned back in his chair like he was cross-examining a criminal mastermind. "So Marcus Johnson," Daniels drawled, pretending to study the license he'd already dismissed. "Address says Oakwood Estates. That's funny, because I've patrolled that neighborhood for years, and I've never seen you once. People there drive BMWs and Teslas. You're driving a city cruiser dressed up in leather. Doesn't add up." Marcus gave a small smile. "Maybe you just weren't paying attention." Daniels bristled. "Don't get slick with me. Where'd you get the car?" "I bought it." "With what money?" "My paycheck." Daniels laughed, loud enough to turn heads. "Your paycheck? Doing what exactly? Running hustles? Cutting corners? Don't waste my time. Tell me who you really are." Marcus leaned back against the bench, his voice steady. "I already told you." The silence that followed only made Daniels more agitated. He needed Marcus to flinch, to crack, to give him a reason to justify this circus. But Marcus wasn't going to give him that satisfaction. Another officer, an older sergeant with graying hair, finally spoke up from across the room. "Daniels, you got any real charges, or are you just fishing again?" Daniels shot him a glare. "Stay out of this, Sarge. I know what I'm doing." The sergeant sighed and went back to his paperwork. He knew Daniels's type: ambitious, insecure, desperate to prove himself. And he also knew it was a dangerous mix. Daniels turned back to Marcus, doubling down. "All right, let's cut to the chase. I think you're lying about where you live. I think you're lying about who you are. And until I sort that out, you're not going anywhere." He leaned in closer, voice low and ugly. "And if you think that fancy suit and calm act is gonna save you, think again. Guys like you always slip up. And when you do, I'll be right there to watch you fall." Marcus held his gaze. "You're very confident for someone who hasn't asked a single proper question." Daniels slammed his hand on the desk. "Don't talk back to me." The room went quiet again. The second officer who had ridden in with Daniels shifted uncomfortably. Clearly regretting backing him up earlier, Daniels grabbed the phone on his desk. "I'm calling this in, running a full background. We'll see what dirt comes up." He dialed, rattling off Marcus's name and license number. On the other end, the dispatcher paused. Daniels didn't notice. He was too busy smirking at Marcus like he'd just delivered a fatal blow. But Marcus noticed. He saw the flicker in the dispatcher's eyes through the glass partition. Recognition, hesitation, the kind of reaction that said, "You have no idea who you're messing with." The dispatcher's voice came back carefully. Officer Daniels, I need you to hold for a moment. We're verifying some information." Daniels leaned back, smug. "Take your time. I've got all night." Marcus sat perfectly still, the corners of his mouth twitching with the faintest trace of amusement. The net was tightening, and Daniels didn't even realize it. Minutes passed. Daniels grew restless, tapping his pen, glaring at Marcus like silence itself was an insult. Finally, the phone clicked back live. "Officer Daniels." The dispatcher said slowly, choosing her words. "You need to bring Mr. Johnson to the conference room. Now." Daniels frowned. "Conference room? Why? What did you find?" "Just do it," she replied sharply. Daniels hung up, visibly irritated. "Fine. On your feet." He yanked Marcus up from the bench and marched him toward the conference room at the end of the hall. As they walked, Marcus caught the glances of several officers. Some looked away quickly. Others raised their brows, as if silently asking him, "Are you going to end this now?" Marcus shook his head, almost imperceptibly. Not yet. The conference room door shut behind them. Daniels shoved Marcus into a chair and stood looming over him. "You know what? I don't even need a dispatcher to tell me who you are. I can see it in your eyes. You think you're better than me. You think you can sit there calm and collected while I break you down. But here's the truth." Marcus leaned forward, just slightly, voice low but cutting through the tirade. "No, Officer Daniels, here's the truth. Every second you keep talking, you're building the case against yourself." Daniels blinked. For the first time that night, a flicker of doubt crossed his face. Marcus leaned back again, folding his cuffed hands in his lap. "And you don't even see it." The conference room was quiet, except for the hum of the old air conditioner. Marcus sat with his hands still cuffed, his posture calm, his gaze steady. Across from him, Officer Daniels paced like a predator, his boots heavy on the linoleum. "You know what your problem is?" Daniels finally said, pointing a finger at Marcus. "You think calm makes you clever. You think if you sit there and act like you've got nothing to hide, I'll believe you? But I know better. I've been doing this job long enough to know when someone's faking it." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "How long exactly?" Daniels blinked. "What? How long have you been doing this job?" Marcus repeated. "Almost 6 years," Daniels said proudly. 6 years of keeping this city safe from liars, hustlers, and guys like you who think they can slip through the cracks." Marcus tilted his head slightly, studying him. 6 years. And in that time, how many people have you treated the way you treated me tonight? How many stops that never made sense? How many pat-downs that found nothing? How many lives disrupted because you thought suspicion was the same thing as evidence? Daniels clenched his jaw. "I do what it takes to protect people who actually belong here." "People who look like you," Marcus said softly. That landed like a strike. Daniels' face darkened. "Watch it." The door opened suddenly. The sergeant from earlier entered, followed by the captain on duty that night. Both men looked uneasy. The sergeant's eyes flicked to Marcus, then back to Daniels. "Daniels," the captain said curtly, "step outside." Daniels frowned. "Why? I've got this under control." "Now." The word cracked like a whip. Daniels hesitated, then muttered something under his breath and stepped into the hall. The captain shut the door behind him and turned to Marcus. "Commissioner Johnson," he said quietly, "we didn't know you were here. We're sorry this happened." Marcus finally moved. He straightened in his chair, his presence filling the room. "Then you understand why I let it play out this far. I wanted to see how deep it went." The sergeant's face was grim. "Deep enough, sir. Daniels has a history, but no one's ever been able to pin him. Too many complaints brushed aside. But this," he gestured at the door. The captain's voice was flat. "Take off the cuffs." Daniels blinked. "What? Take them off, now." Confused, Daniels stepped behind Marcus and fumbled with the key. The cuffs clicked open. Marcus rubbed his wrist slowly, then turned to face Daniels fully. "You want to know who I am?" Marcus asked. Daniels smirked. "Yeah, let's hear it. Who are you really?" Marcus reached into his inner pocket and placed his leather badge holder on the table. He flipped it open, the gold shield gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. "Police Commissioner." The room froze. The sergeant straightened, the captain lowered his eyes, and Daniels went pale. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Marcus's voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute authority. "I am the highest-ranking officer in this city. Every single badge in this building, including yours, ultimately reports to me. And tonight, you treated me like a criminal for no reason other than the color of my skin and the car I drive." Daniel stumbled back a step. I didn't know, sir. If I had known." Marcus stood, his presence towering. That's the problem. You shouldn't have to know. You should treat every person with the respect you denied me. Because if you can do this to me, a commissioner, then I know you've done it to countless others who couldn't fight back. Daniel stammered, his bravado crumbling. I was just following protocol. Marcus's voice cut through him like steel. Protocol! There is nothing in protocol about racial profiling. There is nothing in protocol about illegal searches. There is nothing in protocol about humiliation as a tactic. He stepped closer. You don't follow protocol, you follow prejudice. The sergeant spoke quietly, almost like he wanted to save what dignity the department had left. Commissioner, what do you want us to do? Marcus's eyes never left Daniel's. He's suspended immediately. Internal Affairs will have his file on my desk by tomorrow morning, and every officer in this precinct will undergo retraining on lawful stops and community relations, effective immediately. The captain nodded quickly, scribbling notes, eager to show compliance. Daniel's shoulders slumped, the weight of reality crashing down. His career, the power he thought made him untouchable, was collapsing in front of him. Marcus leaned in, his voice low but sharp. Let this be the last time you ever forget what that badge is supposed to stand for. Because if you do, I'll make sure it's the last time you ever wear one. Daniel swallowed hard, his face drained of all color. Marcus picked up his badge and slipped it back into his jacket. Without another word, he walked out of the conference room, his steps steady, his presence undeniable. The officers outside parted instantly, the atmosphere thick with shame and respect. For Marcus, the drive home was quiet again, but this time the silence carried something heavier. Not victory. Justice was never truly victory, but the knowledge that one officer's arrogance had been exposed, and perhaps, just perhaps, the department would think twice before letting another like him slip through, because the city's top cop had just reminded them all who really held the power and what it meant to use it.